Another waitingfornextyear.com podcast. Brown season is upon us, so I naturally just associate Brown season with you, Mr. Jim Kinnicky. Mike Burgermeister, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I don't think of calling you to talk about the Indians. I only think about talking to you about the Browns for some reason.
Well, that's all well and good, but I was a little bit. My feelings were hurt when you didn't call me for World Cup talk.
Oh yeah,
because I nailed it with Germany, and I didn't miss a game. That was great. I enjoyed it.
Well, 4 years from now, we'll do it.
Deal.
So obviously, the first things first. This morning, the Browns missed their Tuesday, but they got Wednesday morning, where they named their starting quarterback Brian Hoyer, and the various opinions and columns and commentary about this. It's kind of interesting. Some of it's not so interesting. I assume you have some distinct feelings on it. I assume you were pretty happy.
Well, I think it was the right decision.
That's a better way of phrasing it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would be happy if we would have signed him before all of this, so that now we aren't looking at the worst of all possible situations, which is to have a division-winning quarterback who is also an unrestricted free agent. He's going to blow up your salary cap or walk, right? So that's a problem. That's a big problem. But that's for another day. I think it was the right decision. My post this morning was really in response to that Monday night game. It was brutal how hard people came down on Brian Hoyer. And I can't say it was a great game on his part, but when you go back and you look at every pass play, there were 8 of them. On 7 of them, somebody else on his team did something to screw up the play. We could go one by one, and I could walk you through. First play you've got.
Well, let's do that because I think people do remember the plays because there weren't that many of them.
Right.
And it was easy because it was kind of a nightmare from the start. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So play number 1, Cameron goes in motion, apparently not in the right direction. Hoyer's trying to straighten him out. And then Alex Mack snaps the ball fast. If you go to my post, you can see a blow-up of the shot, and the ball is actually in Hoyer's chest, and nobody else on the line has moved except for Mack. So
yeah, Greco and Schwartz don't budge.
Yeah, it was actually a very good play by Hoyer to field the snap and not have a Peyton Manning situation. And then, and I don't know if you can kill Schwartz on that or not, but of course, Kerrigan blew by Schwartz, and I think Hoyer did well.
I didn't feel like the left side moved either, though. So
yeah, nobody moved. Yeah,
it was all kind of wacky.
That's play number 1. Okay, so here we are, 2nd and 16. Play number 2, false start, Joe Thomas. 2nd and 21. Here's the one where I think he was under pressure, and if you want to pick it apart, I really didn't look at the video that hard. I would bet that Hoyer looked rushed. I would bet he threw off his back foot. I would bet there are things to pick apart on this play, but the bottom line is he hits Jordan Cameron on the ass on a 2nd and 21. And when you look at the picture, the still capture that I've got of it, Cameron's actually looking back or in the direction of the quarterback, and his arms are at his waist while the ball is like right there. So,
and this is one of those plays that we were so impressed with a year ago when you could count to 3 potato before Whedon would even think about throwing the ball, and Hoyer, while not the guy who can make all the throws with that ridiculous arm strength and that giant stature, he was getting the ball out, and he was getting it out ahead of pressure, and that's what he did on that play. Was it a perfect throw? No. Was the receiver looking for it yet? No. But this was exactly the kind of play that impressed us a year ago.
That's a great point, Craig, because his say what you want about Hoyer, but quick release and accurate. And you can say it's not an accurate throw, but it hits the guy, so that's pretty accurate. And there we are, 3rd and 21, draw play, and we're out of there.
And Ben Tate goes for 20.
I know. I thought he was going to make that. And my opinion on this: if you are an offense in preseason who has not scored a touchdown, you should have no punts and no field goals until you do so. So even at 4th and 2 from the 30, keep the offense out there. Let's get something going, please. And
but anyway, they punt.
They punt. Next drive was a little bit more conservative, handoff, and it's 3rd and 4, and that's the one where Hoyer throws. I think it was a curl pattern for Hawkins, 3rd and 4, and Hawkins runs the pattern, sits down, let's say 10 yards downfield. Hoyer throws it 8 yards downfield. It's a low pass. It was a bad pass because it looked like a pretty easy pass to execute, but nonetheless, it was a catchable pass.
It was a little bit low, maybe a little bit behind him, or they were a little bit off of communication. But the idea was that where the ball was delivered was directly in a pocket between 3 defenders. If he continues the route across the field, he's going straight into the arms of 2 defenders, I believe a safety and a linebacker. So where Brian Hoyer unloaded the ball and put the ball would have been a first down if he'd been on the same page with Hawkins and made a really maybe a better throw. I don't know if it was the throw or the communication and timing, but I would prefer to call it more of a timing and a chemistry thing, kind of like the Jordan Cameron pass as well.
I would layer in there also a little bit of erring on the side of caution. When you have these crossing routes, you got to throw it low, or else you are going to get your receivers trucked going across the middle. And
you're going to go Josh Cribbs against the Steelers and have their heads removed.
And on the next play, you're going to do it to Massaquoi. That was was that McCoy doing that to those guys?
I think so.
It was he was killing his receivers. So Hoyer got it out far enough for the first down. He got it low so the receiver can just take it and get down on the ground and move the chains.
So and it's a very obviously I watch a lot of the Colts because of my wife, but it's a very Colts-ish kind of a thing where you catch the ball, you hit the ground as long as it's over the first down line, and you don't get crazy about yards after catch, which is something you pointed out in your post as well. You're open. You're past the first down marker. Take it. Go to the next play.
Yeah, and I in that case, Hawkins needs to just suck it up and say, okay, there's going to be no yak on this play. Just catch it and take the first down. But
let's just assume, and from my perspective, I'm just going to assume that that's kind of a chemistry thing between the quarterback and the receiver. They're both capable of making that play. It's a matter of being on the same page as much as anything else. Yeah.
And that's a whole separate set of issues about the way this camp has been run that I bet Pettine would want to do differently in terms of having guys.
Well, let's save that for later. Next drive.
Let's do. Okay, next drive. 3rd Hoyer drive. Now, in the interim, you've had 2 Johnny drives. One was a 3-and-out, and the other one was actually a pretty nice little 11-play, 60-yard drive. But if you drill into it, you see that there were 2 third-down conversions. Two first downs were on penalties, and there were 35 total yards of penalties out of those 60. So just take just pointing that out in terms of the quarterback eval. 3rd Hoyer drive. This is after the I think it was Gibson's interception. So the ball is deep in Washington territory. First and 10 from the 15. Basic slant route to Josh Gordon. It's a crossing route, and this ball was perfect. Now it's tough when you're going across the middle, and you're going to get clocked. But again, Hoyer puts it right on the numbers. He did not have to extend his arms, or just a little bit he had to extend his arms, but he wasn't exposing his ribs to do so. And he short-armed it and dropped it. And he got clocked anyway. We're talking about Josh Gordon was the targeted receiver. So I find no fault with Hoyer on that pass. Your thoughts, or did you have the same takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I would call it a drop I would call it a drop. And was it the greatest play in the world? Was it going to go for? No, it was going to go for the cheap, easy 5-6 yards. Or
yeah, set up a 2nd and 5.
It was okay.
Second and 4. Those are good in the red zone or anywhere. So all right, and that's what they used on the next play was a handoff. And so now what do we got? It's a 3rd and 6.
Yeah.
And apparently Hawkins got a great release off the line. Crossing pattern over the middle, wide open.
It's exactly what you want. He's got a safety behind him and a linebacker that he just beat laterally.
Yep. And you could tell. I mean, if you watch it critically, I'm biased because I think Hoyer's the guy, but I'm also realist. I try to be anyway. And it looked like Hoyer had some happy feet, almost like he couldn't believe how open he was. He fires the ball really hard, and he just missed him. But if, in my mind's eye, I think, again, he was trying to be cautious and avoid turnovers, and I think he was back-shouldering Hawkins to keep him away from any possible red zone turnover.
Well, I think that's probably overstating it. But he did. I mean, look, it was not a great pass, but he hit him in the hands. I mean, in the end of it all, he hit him in the hands and not like on a full layout. I mean, this is the kind of catch that you expect the upgrade for Greg Little to make.
Yeah. Well, and these are the kinds of catches that Jordan Cameron was making to beat the Vikings, were these high corner patterns where it's just he's the 6'5" guy is stretched out as high as he can get. He's the only one who can catch it, and he's making the play. Nobody made any plays for Hoyer on Monday.
Or themselves.
Yeah.
And if there was any kind of competition at receiver, holy cow. But we don't need to talk about that just yet. So anyway, I think that's probably enough. I think that covers enough of the base here. It's unfortunate. I think the entire Browns offense, other than Ben Tate, has looked pretty bad. And I'm not exploding all the offensive line type work because I really just haven't dug in and looked at it in depth. But of the skill positions of the really noticeable, I mean, it's not like we have the all-22 sitting in front of us right now in the preseason. Of the really noticeable stuff, the Browns offense just hasn't made a lot of plays, and none of the skill players have done much.
No rhythm, choppy, the patterns are going, and the balls don't look right, and we don't know how much of that are bad patterns or bad passes.
Right.
But yeah, nothing looks crisp. And I will tell you, I see trouble ahead because it's not going to get any easier when we have our dress rehearsal this Saturday against the best front four in football. I mean, the Rams' front four is the best in football. And
well, don't you think the Browns have one of the top 5 offensive lines in football?
They're going to be challenged. Do I think they're one of the top 5? Probably. I'd want to go back and check that, but yeah, I really like our offensive line.
I mean, it's other than maybe the defensive line, it's got to be the premier position group on the team. Maybe defensive backs are a close third.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Defensive line, then offensive line, then defensive backs.
I know, but still, I mean, so the Rams present a challenge in that.
Sure.
That's when you have a strong front four, you can bring pressure without a blitz and occupy that whole good front offensive front that we've got, and then maybe throw in a corner or safety blitz.
And then your linebackers should also be able to make some pretty good plays on the running game.
Yeah. So, but seriously, I want to say Quinn had like 20 sacks last year.
Yeah.
Just obscene. And then you got Donald and Long, or I'm sorry, you've got Brockers and Long also. But Aaron Donald, their first-round pick from Pitt, is really a stud, and he's looking good in camp. So
you don't think that Pettine and Shanahan should have run this as a competition at all?
Well, here's where I'm going. Just to finish that thought, what I see as problem is that Hoyer might not. I actually think he's going to play better, and I think he's going to look pretty good Saturday. But the scenario I can definitely anticipate is that Hoyer looks bad, Manziel looks good on Saturday, but nobody will take into account that Hoyer had to face that front four while Manziel did not. So that's a concern. Do I think there should have been a competition? Yeah. You can't not have a competition once you draft a quarterback in the first round. So they painted themselves in the corner. You got to do it. I actually think Pettine probably ran it just about as well as he could have.
Yeah, I think it was the right move. I think if Brian Hoyer, well, it's a dumb if. I was going to say if Brian Hoyer's not coming off an injury, it makes all the sense in the world. Let's pretend that the 3 games that Hoyer played, or 2.5 games that Hoyer played, occurred at the end of the season, and he doesn't get injured, and they go into the offseason with just as brief a resume. I think then even if you draft Johnny Manziel, and they probably still go out and draft Johnny Manziel, you name Hoyer the starter. They stopped just short of naming him the starter in training camp anyway. They said it was his job. He was the incumbent. He had a lead. They basically said it was his job, but they did give Manziel some chances with the first team offense in camp. And as I said in my post today, Colt McCoy wishes he'd had that when the Browns drafted Brandon Weeden, and Brian Hoyer himself wishes he'd had that opportunity last year to try and beat out Brandon Weeden and Jason Campbell in camp.
Oh, I'll give you another one. I think Brady Quinn to this day regrets that holdout. I think if he comes into camp and gets some reps, he's not a basket case that he became. I've never seen a quarterback be so good in college, and he was really bad.
Although, you know what? When the Browns drafted Brady Quinn, I remember specifically STO started replaying Notre Dame games.
Yeah.
And I remember watching them and going, I thought this kid was good.
Oh, dear. Okay, yeah, I didn't watch close. All I saw was like a couple winning games, and he sure looked the part.
And that's what made me so excited about Johnny Manziel. It wasn't just highlights. When I started watching complete games on YouTube, it wasn't all perfect, of course, but I was like, all right, I see a kid who's actually going through progressions, and he's seeing the second and third options in the offense. And I'm still, even though Johnny Manziel hasn't won this job yet, I'm still excited for that.
Yeah, I'm pretty equivocal on Manziel because I probably, this is so lame because I'm going to give you I wouldn't have picked him, but that being said, sort of thing. But my take on Manziel was a pretty unstructured offense, and his weapon. Well, first of all, he's playing behind not one but 2 top 10 offensive linemen with Luke Jokel last year and Jake Matthews this year,
right?
From the draft, and then he's got Mike Evans, who's, I'm serious, man. You got a 6'5" guy with it's like 35 or 36 inch arms.
I know your man crush on Mike Evans is well known.
He's great, but good but when you play that style of unstructured football, it's good to have a guy like Mike Evans where you can, as a safety valve, you can throw it to. Now, I didn't see a whole lot where he's like falling on his ass and throwing it up for grabs and Evans is winning jump balls, but it was always an option there for him too.
I'm just busting your chops. I bought in with your Mike Evans stuff.
Yeah, he'll be fun to watch. I think Tampa, actually, you've got Evans, Vincent Jackson, and Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who's a big, tall tight end in the red zone this year. I really want to see them go to work, even if it is just Josh McCown at quarterback. They could be good.
It's funny though because nobody's really talking about it because the Browns made a pretty good trade with Buffalo, but I was kind of wrong. I think I was wrong about Sammy Watkins. It sounds like he's all kinds of Julio Jones.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. But it's certainly the early returns, and they are early, are already better than what I thought they were going to be on him.
Yeah, well,
Especially considering, the youth of the quarterback he's playing with and the unprovenness of the offense he's playing with.
yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. Maybe. I actually haven't been. All I heard about my next door neighbor is a Bills fan, and he said he had to leave the game with bruised ribs or something like that. That's as much as I've heard on Watkins. So
Right.
So I don't know. I'm missing some of that. But
okay, so in the end, they do hold the quarterback competition, and maybe it did stunt the growth of the chemistry between Hoyer and his receivers, and maybe, but I don't think just because it turned out that way you can say it was a bad way to operate, because I think not having a quarterback competition was bad in previous situations as well. So, if you ask me which way I prefer, short of a coin flip in Romeo Crennel's fashion, I prefer a reasonable competition. I'm happy that Mike Pettine named the starter when he did. And I'm happy that he gave Manziel some legitimate first-team reps.
Yeah, like I said, I think Pettine did as well as he could do with the hand he was dealt.
Yes.
And I think Hoyer said all the right things about embracing competition and let the better man win and so forth. That's all he could say, and he handled that well. But I think in the back of Hoyer's mind, he's like, mother of God, I'm going to be a backup again. Every blogger, every website, every media outlet, every journalist is pulling for Manziel, and they are hanging on his every word. And I am. I've only started, 3 or 4 games. I've been a backup all my life, and now I've got to deal with this. I better not make any mistakes. I better be perfect here. I just think that had to prey on his mind.
But I still get the sense locally that people are pretty rational about the whole thing. I know there's some people who think that Manziel should have been named, and it's eventually and obviously going to be him, so you might as well get it out of the way now. But I get the sense that there's at least a half or 60% who would prefer that Brian Hoyer be the first man up.
And I think that's true. I think that's true among the fan base.
It's the healthiest fan base reaction we've had to a quarterback situation that I can remember.
Yeah, no, the fan base I think is on mark. But if I'm Brian Hoyer, I'm probably restricting my Twitter intake and probably not really wanting to tune into what the fans are saying. I might just be reading, Mary Kay Cabot or something like that. And if I am, I'm kind of nervous, at all the Manziel love that is rampant in the media. Although
I guess, but if that's the case, that's on him.
Yeah, well, he actually said, I think he said somewhere that he tries to avoid all of the media, and that too is I think pretty wise.
I agree, but I also, as I just said, I think if he's all nervous about that, then it's on him. Nobody can do that kind of thing to you. You do that to yourself, and maybe it's true, maybe it's easy to succumb to it. But I mean, this is we're talking about NFL starting quarterback. It's part of the gig.
Yeah. And if he did, he's probably stronger than I am, because I think if I had been a backup quarterback...
No offense, he better be stronger than you are. Better be stronger than me, too.
If I had been a backup quarterback behind Brady, then got cut, then went to Arizona and got cut, and finally was third stringer behind freaking Jason Campbell and Brandon Weeden, won the job, and then blew my knee out, and had won the job, I repeat, and then blew my knee out, and then I got to go face the most proclaimed college quarterback for the first time ever in the internet age. I think it would bother me. But again, you're right, Craig. I hope he is stronger than me.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about some of the unheralded storylines of Brown's camp. What has you most excited? Is it the running game? Is it the defensive line? Is it the a couple of big interceptions? What are you most intrigued or excited about so far?
I'm not excited at all. I was, I haven't. Yeah, all right. I'll say I wouldn't say excited, but pleasant surprise. Signs of life from Barkevius Mingo. I'm happy to see that. I think he could be a contributor. I was saying it tongue in cheek before, but the more I thought about it, the more I liked the idea of moving him back to safety. I just was ready to scrap it and try him somewhere else because he's a good athlete. He looks like he's going to be a contributor. Dansby and Whitner really I haven't really broken down the film, but hard to say that they're impact player. Armani Bryant has jumped off the page. Billy Wynn has looked good. John Hughes, solid.
Well, and that's another thing that I keep trying to explain to people is that yes, the Browns are being aggressive about going after the quarterback, and they are rushing hard, but they're not rushing exotic. They haven't moved guys around. They're not running a lot of stunts. Yes, they're doing some cornerback blitzes and things, but that's not exotic.
Yeah. Yeah, well, right. And so in terms of bringing pressure in non-exotic ways, that's kind of, to my mind, Paul Kruger's job, and still not getting that job done.
No, that's true, but I just meant the defense as a whole. I think a lot of people are saying, well, where's this quarterback crushing Mike Pettine defense? And this is the vanilla version. You go balls out and you go hard after the quarterback. You may send a lot of guys, but you're not sending them in the lanes that you're going to send them against Pittsburgh.
Now that I think about it, though, Craig, they had some good pressure, and
they did.
And they had the misfortune of applying that pressure to the most mobile quarterback in the league, right?
But they did force an interception.
And they did force an interception, right? So if they bring that same sort of pressure against Sam Bradford, we could see a whole different thing. So that could be something to watch next week. I don't think Bradford is going to be able to get outrun or escape Mingo the way Griffin was.
No, and I'm looking forward to the day that the Browns flush Ben Roethlisberger from the pocket and Carlos Dansby's there to meet him instead of DeQuell Jackson. Because that will be the proof that I'm looking for.
That would be the gold standard of proof. Ben Roethlisberger is probably the best quarterback under pressure I've ever seen, and I'm 52 years old. He stands in there, and even when the pocket's collapsing, even when you got hands on him, you can't bring the guy down, and he's completing some dink pass over the middle for a touchdown on you.
He's so good and infuriating that I have banned the use of the nickname Big Ben with my son Ben.
Yeah.
If anybody even utters that, I say no.
Yeah, I haven't read a whole lot of previews on the NFL, but my sense is that people are picking the Bengals in our division, maybe the Ravens. Yeah, I can't sleep on the Steelers as long as Roethlisberger is the quarterback.
I think a lot of people have the Steelers second in the division.
Yeah.
Over the Ravens.
Yeah, I haven't taken a hard. I did an NFC thing yesterday where I looked at all the teams. Next couple of days I'll do the AFC. And I want to look at the Steelers' offensive line because they used a first-round pick on David DeCastro from Stanford last year, and he blew out his knee in camp or something. So they're getting him back. And I think they drafted another offensive lineman. I think Pouncey was out, and he's coming back. So now they're going to have an offensive line. And that really hurt him last year. So
big time.
Yeah. Like I say, I haven't looked at the Steelers yet, but I think that something tells me they might be a scary team again. But on the other hand, on defense, they seem like they're really old.
Yes.
So there's that. What else, Craig?
All right, let's talk about the running backs in particular.
Right, I was just going to go there.
It's the weirdest thing. they haven't played the young, exciting guys like Crowell in the preseason. Maybe they're saving him for games 3 and 4. We haven't seen a lot of Edwin Baker. We've seen almost nothing of Chris Obanaya. We've seen a lot of Dion Lewis, a good amount of Terrence West, and a good amount of Ben Tate, of course. Yeah. But I can't figure out. Rick, with Waiting for Next Year, thinks there's absolutely no way that Chris Obanaya is gone. I'm kind of, I know they like him, but it seems more telling to me that we haven't seen him in the preseason, but I don't know.
Yeah. So what? He's a good special teams guy, and he's a good
backup running back.
Well, in that sense, he's good in that he can catch a pass and he can pass protect. I mean, I'm not.
But he's not a third down back.
Right. Exactly. I don't know. I mean,
or not a good third down back.
I would say he could stay because are you really that blown away by Isaiah Crowell? I know his pedigree is really good and so forth, but if you can't sneak him onto your practice squad, is it that big of a deal? I don't know. Maybe I don't really that. I don't care. It's kind of where I'm at on it.
So for you, who are your running backs that you're keeping?
It's just Tate and West. And I don't care. I really don't. One thing that has surprised me is Marquise Gray. He seems like he's going to be a big part of this offense, which that
fullback tight end. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's note for the record that all those guys. I was one of the Vickers guys. Okay. I really liked Vickers, and for
one
all
of the infamous Vickers backers.
There were a lot of smug commentary about we don't need a fullback, and that's an archaic offensive set and so forth. Well, look at us now. We got a good fullback. It seems, except the difference here is he can catch a pass. It'd be nice if he didn't fumble.
And why would anybody be jumping to listen to Pat Shurmur's offensive preferences? So.
Good point.
In hindsight, we know what that's worth.
But what's interesting to me is the.
Some people knew it in foresight. Anyway,
I don't think West is going to beat out Tate. Tate looks pretty good to me.
Well, and there's no point to that either. There's enough in most NFL offenses. There are enough carries for 2 running backs. It's only the Browns who have failed to find carries for 2 running backs over the course of the last 5-6 years.
Well, when you go in. Well, when you're running like Trent Richardson, you don't want to hand the ball off to guys.
No, but even further back, even Mangini, was it Peyton Hillis or was it I can't remember his name, the poor kid who came down with a brain tumor.
I'm lost.
It felt like Brown's coaches, for as far back as I can remember, were just focused on having one running back and not spreading the love to multiple runners.
Oh, yeah, that goes back to Jamal Lewis. I don't know why that should be. I don't know that it will be this year. All I can tell you, Craig, is it's just refreshing to see 2 running backs hit the damn hole. Trent Richardson had that dancing.
Jerome Harrison.
Yes.
Jerome Harrison.
He had that one game against Kansas City, and then didn't we waive him or something? He was...
Traded him to Philly or Detroit?
Or maybe he got traded to Kansas City.
Traded him to Philly. He ended up in Detroit, and he ended up with a brain tumor in Detroit. It was a really sad case.
That's it. Yes. He got porked. Yeah. He did not get a fair shake, in my opinion here. I thought he showed enough to... Who was he up against? Jamal Lewis? That might have been somewhere.
Jamal Lewis, but then at the end he was up against Peyton Hillis. But anyway.
Well, the main thing is Tate attacks the hole. West actually pushes piles.
I'm sorry, I gotta do this one more thing. So in that 2009 season, he's the one who helped the Browns win out. He went for 286 yards against Kansas City, as you talked about. Then he went for 148 against Oakland and 127 against Jacksonville. He had 5 TDs over the course of the last 3 games.
So what happened? We had a regime change, and the new guys traded him. Is that one of those things? I bet that's what happened.
I can't remember.
I bet Mangini was out, and Holmgren came in, and is like, "Oh, who's this Jerome Harrison guy?" And
he played the first 4 games for Cleveland in 2010, but they moved on to Peyton Hillis, and then he was traded to Philly.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, we've talked far too much about Jerome Harrison.
No.
It's my fault.
That's okay. Yeah. Well, that was going to bug. I had a complete blank on that. I was no good to you, and that was going to bug you all day until you found out it was Jerome Harrison. No, I like our running game. I'm not seeing the effects of the zone blocking scheme yet. I'm not seeing. It's nice to have a go-to play that you can identify with the offense. Of course, the old Browns had the sweep with Shafrath leading it and booking around N or Gene Hickerson.
Right.
And with Kelly and Brown. And with the Steelers, it was always the counter thing that they would cross the guards in front, do some misdirection, get the lineman moving the wrong way, and Franco Harris is down the field. But it was Chuck Noll's counter. It would be nice to have a play that is their go-to play. And the Browns haven't had that in, probably your lifetime. And I haven't seen any inkling of that yet, but I'm still hopeful.
So, but I have been encouraged by the way this zone blocking scheme and the way the runners have reacted to it. I think Ben Tate is, if he can stay healthy and on the field, will rack up some big numbers. And I think it's going to be refreshing for Browns fans to have some semblance of a running game.
Well, I glossed over all those handoffs in these Hoyer drive recaps.
Right.
But they were all like 4-yard gains.
Yes.
I mean, that's a hell of a lot better than what we had last year or the year before that.
Yes.
Last year, what a mess last year was at running back. Holy smokes.
Yeah. When Edwin Baker looks like a revelation.
Yeah.
Oof. That was just horrendous. Okay. Any last thoughts before we close this one out? We're nearing 40 minutes. And
got to pimp Pet Cheddar Bay, buddy.
Right. Well, I meant content before plugs.
Oh, okay.
Any last thoughts heading into the final preseason game? I will be unable to watch that game live, by the way. So, the most important game.
I've been down the 11 to 10 win train, division winning bandwagon. I'm leading the charge on that, and very seriously so. I think and thought we had a good core and good team, and I'm not as down with that perspective as I was a month ago. So I'm a little concerned about what I'm seeing, and the concern is the goddamn lack of offense. So hopefully, and I'm not really that impressed with Mike Shanahan as yet. So hopefully these things can work out in the next 2 weeks. But right now, I'm kind of raised my threat level to orange on the offense.
Yeah, the good news, and you said you glossed over it. I glossed over it too. The starting running backs for the Browns had 18 carries and 82 yards. So. That's a 5.1 yard average for Ben Tate and a 3.9 yard average for Terrence West.
Yeah, that's good for us.
Yeah.
It's not the Eagles, but it's good for us.
No, and I think that with repetition, as if you do have a superior offensive line, that stuff starts to get better as the game goes along, not worse. If the defense keeps them in the game and they can commit to the run and it's working. That's the problem. Browns fans have been talking about, well, we need to commit to the run. We need to commit to the run. But committing to the run meant 3 yards or 2.5 yards per carry. No offensive coordinator can commit to the run if it never works.
Correct.
So.
And the other thing you touched on about, the offensive line starting to grind down the other team. It works in reverse. If you can't run the ball, your defense gets ground down.
Because those pass rushers,
yeah,
they quote unquote pin their ears back, and they're just blasting you in the face every down.
Well, I was just saying, our defense last year, our numbers didn't look good, and it didn't square up with what I thought was, pretty good defense. And I think the fact was this time of possession thing in the fourth quarter, our guys would be shot, and that's where Jacksonville would march down the field and beat us. It just happened a lot. So, yeah, it's all about getting things in shape for Saturday. Saturday's a big game, Craig, and you're going to miss it, you say.
Yes. Well, until later. I'm going to record it, of course. But, yes, my wife has her 20-year high school reunion.
Wow. That's can we know what high school?
It's in Indianapolis.
Oh, in Indy, yeah. So, you're beyond the road. Well, that's a biggie.
Yeah, so maybe I'll have to watch that on the old Slingbox on the way home. But all right, so Cheddar Bay is your annual contest, the best reality sports competition on the internet.
That's yes, and I don't think that's an exaggeration to say so. This is the sixth year Cleveland Frowns inaugurated this, and I've been playing maybe since year 3.
Who's Cleveland Frowns? I haven't seen him in a long time.
I think you might know the guy. He's a balding Greek fellow. He's very fit, trim, and
the master of all yoga.
Yes, and a loquacious chap.
Loquacious.
Anyway, Frowns kicked this off, and he handed it off to me last year to host at my site. Once I opened up my site. He's doing other things. And, there was a time when Frowns was doing daily posts, and they were big and great. And I just thought it was unsustainable. And I haven't talked to him about it, but it is unsustainable. I found that out myself. Be that as it may, he handed it off to me last year. And so you can sign up there. The concept is simply, rather than playing fantasy football where you're rooting for individual players, why not just go through the list of games every week and pick 6 games against the spread and compare your game picking skill against the other best game pickers in the Northeast Ohio internet community. It's a very fun challenge. Again, the concept is you pick 6 games. It's got to be at least 1 college, 1 pro, and one of those 6 games is to be an essay pick where you put forward 100 words on why this is your pick of the week. The idea is that it's both a competition but also a communal sharing of wisdom so that we can benefit from the wisdom of others in our community. In other words, you can take a guy take one of our players, Cleveland I Love. She hit on 13 essay picks in a row a couple years ago. You get her pick, you run down to your online sports book, and you can make a small wager on it if you choose to. So that's why we do the essays. And we had about 50 last year. I expect about 50 this year. We've got a lot of notable commenters from the football blogs and from Twitter, and actually have some media types that have joined in with us too. So it's a good community, and if you want to sign up, just go to jimkanicki.com, and it's in the sidebar, and you won't regret it.
Very cool. Thanks so much for joining us to talk about the Browns.
You bet.
And I put it on my Google Calendar to talk to you about the World Cup 4 years from now.
Hey, are you in?
What?
Cheddar.
Huh?
Oh, okay.
Brown season's, there are some media types in, so I have no excuse. But no, I'm not in.
All right, I'll check you out.
I wholeheartly endorse it, but no, I don't partake myself. So, but anyway, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll do it again. We'll do it again soon. Maybe even get a little bit more regular. Do it ahead of the Steelers or something.
That would be fun.
All right. Until then, it's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.